I've been waiting to do this for a very long time, and I've really been itching to really tap in and dive deep into the power of melanin. I feel like melanin really has had this negative connotation historically, and it's very unfortunate. And I believe this is the reason why our people and the people who look just like you and look just like me have been in a state of mental enslavement, have been in a state of past physical enslavement. By not knowing your own true power, you limit yourself from being able to reach your fullest potential, meaning that you may not be able to really dive deep into the power of everything that lives inside you. And let me tell you, that melanin that lives inside of you, outside of you, in your hair, in your skin, in your cells, it is such a spiritual power that many of us have yet to tap into. So let's get right into it. So I'm going to put some up on the screen right here so that you can follow along with me. I got a couple notes here. So we're going to get into the power of melanin, its healing powers, its protective powers, its restorative powers, and its regenerating powers. So this is the melanated series, and this lesson plan will be followed by many other videos. This will be the introduction video to get you acclimated to understanding what melanin truly is, how it exists, where it comes from, and what its capabilities are. So I'm going to let spirit guide us, and we're going to get into a little prayer before we go ahead and start the lesson plan. I pray that all our ancestors are channeled within this message. I pray that spirit gives us in me the divine message to allow us to emancipate and free ourselves from our mental enslavement. I pray that spirit allows me to use my own internal spiritual capabilities in order to relay the message that needs to be relayed. I pray that everyone before me allows me to use their own wisdom through me. I pray that that God gives me the strength and the knowledge to give the courage to others to allow each and every one of us to shine our lives through all of the darkness. Ashe and amen. So, what is melanin, right? When we get into the etymology of the word, what does etymology even mean, right? Because when we talk about these big words, sometimes it's like, well, what does that mean describing that word? So etymology just means like, what is the word? What does the word mean when we break it down historically, right? So historically, the word melanin can be broken down into two parts. When we talk about Milan, which is the first part, Melan, that is the prefix, which means black, right? So this origin is actually connected to a Greek origin, which is interesting because a lot of the Greek origins are actually connected to Egyptian origins because many of the Greeks, if not all, learned all that they knew from the Egyptian. But that's another part of the series that we'll get into later. So that first part of that word, black, meaning Milan, connected to the Greek origin word Milano, right? And that second part called anin, right, deriving for amin, meaning a substance or a chemical or a compound, which describes a functional group consisting of nitrogen and hydrocarbons. So that's basically what melanin is. Melanin is a bunch of hydrogen atoms and a bunch of carbon atoms all coming together, consisting of mostly carbon. So when we break down our makeup, right, a lot of what we're made out of is carbon. So when we get the whole word melanin, we get black amine, which means the purest form of blackness. It is the purest form because it is the substance, the chemical compound of that blackness. So when you break those two words down, melanin is black in its purest form. So when we get further behind this into this introduction, as far as when it comes to science, right? blackness, melanin, right? That chemical. Melanin absorbs all type of energy, whether it be sunlight, electromagnetic radiation, XR rays, radar waves, computer waves, ultraviolet waves, heat waves, and microwaves. Melanin also uses the energy of the entire universe, which is water, earth, sun, moon, galaxies, cycles of the planets, and cycles of minerals. So also when we break down melanin, right, it is our key energies, our key elements rather of life: air, water, fire, and earth. All of those things make up melanin. Those are the building blocks of life, the building elements of life, right? So on a molecular level, melanin particles consist of electrons, protons, and neutrons. These particles constantly rearrange themselves, which is a process we call resonance. So resonance is basically a vibratory state. So those highly melanated people, i.e. us, are in a high vibratory state. Well, you can either be low or high vibratory, but you have the genetic disposition to be in a vibratory state, right? So Britannica defines resonance as physics relatively large selective response of an object or system that vibrates in a step or phase with external applied oscillatory force. So meaning that the outside affects our inside, as above, so below. So here we go. On the physical level, melanin is the natural chemical that makes black people's skin dark in complexion, right? But that's not all melanin does, okay? It presents in the body: skin, cell, nerves, brain, muscles, bones, reproductive systems, digestive systems, and all bodily functions in a higher amount than many other races. And keep in mind that black people are not the only ones who have melanin. We all have melanin. We just have melanin at a higher capacity, right? So the color of melanin appears black because it is absorbing all colors. So melanin, remember I said, is black, and black absorbs everything. Once color enters the melanin, it cannot escape. Once you go black, you cannot go back. That is where that comes from. I'm just kidding, but I mean, melanin is concentrated colors, right? And it this word always gets me, cellularly. It is a black hole similar to the black hole in outer space. If you don't know, there is a huge black hole in the center of the universe, and it also has a double helix around it or near it. That's basically a star, but it looks like a DNA sequence. That's interesting. We'll also get into that at a later time, right? So, as I mentioned before, as above, so below, so within, so without, the principle of correspondence, which means that what exists up in the higher realms of the cosmos also exists within us. And if you think about the entirety of the universe is matter. It's entirely almost just dark and blackness, right? And only small amounts of light exist within that darkness. But the darkness is the divine intelligent force of the universe. So we might skip over this next part I got here, biological levels. Might skip over that, go into that on a different time. But what I want to get further into is I want to define kind of what melanocytes are. Let me take a little sip of my coffee. Get used to that. I'm gonna have some coffee with me or some tea with me. Keep me a little energized. So when we define melanocytes are basically the cells that produce melanin, okay? And this part is essential because those melanin cells, the melanocytes, right? Tyrosine is found within those cells. So inside these melanocytes are vesicles called melanosomes, which are granules of the pigment of melanin where granules of pigment of melanin can be found. Melanosomes attach themselves from the melanocytes and move the body to other cells, eventually making their way to the epidermal cells. That is where you get your skin pigmentation, right? The epidermal cells is the uppermost top layer of the skin, the concentration of melanin determine how dark or light your skin may be. So when we define what melanin does, what does melanin do, right? You know, when we talk about all this, let's make this more understandable. So melanin absorbs light. Let me say that again. Melanin absorbs light. And what is light? Light is the intelligence. Light is information. Light is knowledge. I don't want you guys to just think of this stuff on a surface level. We're going to get really deep into this, and we're going to really uncover the esoteric information that's been hidden from us, okay? Or that's right in front of our eyes, but we're not looking at the information, right? So the color that absorbs light is black, right? It protects our DNA. That's what melanin does. It protects the DNA. It protects the DNA of the body from the sun, from the harmful rays of the sun. But it absorbs the light, but it doesn't get affected by the light. It isn't damaged by the light. That's why you hear a lot of black people, you be in the sun, you don't get skin cancer for the most part, right? That's not a thing because we are protected. So melanin isn't just in your skin, guys. Melanin exists within our hair, our eyes, and of course our skin. It also exists in our bodies on a cellular level, right? It also is in our brains. When we talk about the most key gland that has to do with melanin is our pineal gland. What's our pineal gland? Our third eye. What's our third eye connected to on a spiritual level? Our higher divine consciousness. It also secretes melatonin. Melatonin helps our body to rest, but it also just doesn't do that. Melatonin is the most healing substance, but we'll get more into that later. I get a little excited, so excuse me. So there's 3 different types of melanin, right? There's eumelanin, there's phenomelanin, and neuromelanin. So eumelanin is found in small amounts, like making hair blonde. That's why a lot of people don't understand why black people naturally have blonde hair. There are plenty of tribes, I'll put pictures up here maybe, indigenous people who have blonde hair naturally without dyeing it. We got phenomelanin found in the skin and the hair. Sometimes it may give you that red or pink colors. That's why you can also see a lot of melanated people with reddish hair. It is not as protective as ultraviolet radiation to the phenomelanin. The neuromelanin, which we mentioned, was a part of the brain. It can help protect you from a lot of neurological disorders. So you see these healing properties when you pay attention to like the different types of melanin and what it does. So a melanin's function is so essential. It's so essential to the function on Earth. Melanin exists within every person's body on the planet Earth, right? It is necessary for all bodily function, right? And it is so necessary to protect our bodies from the cancerous effects of ultraviolet radiation. So let's get into the juicy meat and potatoes, right? When we define how melanin plays a role on a spiritual level, right? There are 4 primary types that exist on a universal level. There's planetary, there's cosmic, there's plant life, and then there's an animal kingdom, which is us. Like I said, as above, so below. So these 4 types of melanin that exist, it's just the melanin that exists on the planet, that exists within the space, outer space universe, that exists within plant life. That's why they have their own form of melanin, which is their photosynthesis. And then the animal kingdom, which is us. We are a physical representation of melanin, right? So when we do get into the historical features of melanin, when we get to the deepest, oldest society on the planet known to man right now, that we get into the ancient Egyptians, of course. And who the ancient Egyptians? They were Nubians. They were black. As much as people don't like to or want to admit it, the indigenous people of Egypt were black, and they were the Nubians. So Black Egyptians, their hypothesis about what melanin was is something separate in a different time that we'll get into. So let's go a little bit further. I got a little bit of notes that I want to skip over because some of these will be different lessons. Let's skip a little further. Give me 1 second. So when we talk about just that creative knowledge, before we brush over Egypt, when we talk about just that creative knowledge, that is what the Egyptians had. That is what we call downloads. How do you get a download? You get a download by having the genetic capacity to receive the information. So if you have the melanin skin, the pineal gland that is hyper, that has a abundance rather of melanin, you have more of the capacity to receive all the higher intelligence information that the universe, that the divine has. So how do you think these pyramids were built? And some of the most amazing structures on planet Earth that still are standing after thousands of years, right? So when we talk about the creative power of melanin, it allows you to abstract the vibrations of the universe. Remember, we talked about that word. I can't remember what did we say? Resonance, right? Resonance is the vibratory effect of melanin, right? But everything has polar opposites, not good or bad, not negative or positive, polar opposites. What can be considered negative and positive because they're polar opposites, but it's not necessarily good or bad, right? So don't think of it as bad or good, right? It's just polarity. So too much of anything can be bad, and too lacking of anything can be bad or good, right? That's what we're getting at here. So when we talk about your melanin and how powerful it is and how it vibrates with the universe, because the universe aligns with your energy. And that is also according to the law of correspondence, and that's the Kybalion. So, and it also, that aligns with the law of attractions, right? So, like I said, this is a brief overview, so we're gonna keep going on, and we'll dive deeper into these on the next lectures. So, the benefits of melanin is that melanin is a black matter that exists within everything, right? From the lightest human to the darkest human, melanin exists by protecting and improving brain function. Melanin is really considered the key aspect of life, right? So if you think about this on a physical level, right, it is necessary for embryonic development, the beginning of life. So if you think about it, in the embryonic phase, a fetus grows in darkness, just like seeds grow in darkness, and then they enter the light. So everything starts in darkness. The majority of the universe is dark matter. When you break down that word matter, it really means mother, dark mother. And melanin is at the center of all things in the universe. We're going to skip, excuse me. We're going to skip over some of this stuff though. So when we talk about melanin, right, it also improves your brain functions. Melanin is necessary for primal brain functions, including motivational, emotional, motor, sensory activities. The greater amount of melanin within the brain, the greater amount of your creative powers. I'm not going to lie. Melanin is the reason why us as a people, we are so creative. We're so creative as a people. We're so innovative as a people. And look at the music. Look at the music that we create. Look at the art that we create. Look at the dance that we create. So let's move forward because we're going to get into that on other episodes as well. So it also slows the aging process. That's where you get the black don't crack. You know what I'm saying? Black don't crack. The skin helps protect the skin of a melanated individual. It helps to protect you from the UV rays, which promotes your smoother skin, prevents wrinkles, and prevents from sun damage. Should you do what you can, sometimes be careful. Like I said, too much of anything can be bad. So we don't want too much sunlight. We don't want too much of anything. Polarity, right? Duality, balance. So we can also get to this when we get to this So what am I trying to say? On a cellular level, yes, melanin is a very healing substance. It helps with cell regeneration. It protects the cells, and it prevents you from being also in a carcinogenous state. So the reason why you also are able to absorb nutrients better is because of those melanins. Hydrocarbon, the two God molecules, hydrogen and carbon. Hydrogen, water, carbon, a part of the earth. Anything that can make up the physical plane. That's what we use. That's what carbon is, right? Energy, the spirit. So it can also help with autoimmune disorders, repairs damage, and it can also fight with infections. We already went over and reviewed how it can protect from the sun rays, its protective features, as far as like with your eyes. It's so sad that in history, like darker eyes have been really told that they were ugly, and then one of the most, your eyes are one of the most beautiful things on this planet Earth. Okay, don't let nobody tell you that they're not. I used to also be one person who was ashamed of having dark eyes, of having dark brown eyes. Guess what? That's God in you. That's a God feature. So every time you're looking at the eyes, every time you're looking at the skin, that is God. Okay, that is the divine. You are literally the epitome, the embodiment of the entire universe. How beautiful is that? How? Come on now. So, when it comes to the spiritual benefits of melanin, melanin is charged in the sun. Okay. So, that's when I say get as much sun as you can. Get as much sun as you can. Not too much now. Make sure you still balance it out. Because that sun, and I'm not talking about, you got to be careful too. I don't want to get too much into it, but if you are using that sunscreen and you want to use it, at least make sure it's a natural one. Be careful what you're putting in your skin, because sometimes you may be putting that stuff on your skin and you're actually blocking your energy from actually absorbing the sun the way it's naturally supposed to do it. Your skin naturally protects you. I don't personally believe in putting something extra on my skin when my body naturally protects me. So on top of that, melanin actually has a higher frequency of being able to take radio waves, music waves, cosmic waves, and absorbing those. That's why I'm so big on saying, be careful what you listen to. When we get into saying, you are what you listen to, you are what you eat. These things affect us on a higher level. Remember, I said melanin has a lot of resonance to it. So when we are absorbing these things, we are very susceptible to becoming the exact thing that we are around the majority of the time, right? Your body absorbs, stores, and distributes melanin throughout the body. And that melanin, like I said, is a vibratory state. It's a vibratory state. It can either be highly vibratory or low vibratory. That's why they say high vibrational or low vibrational, right? So emission of your own vibrancy frequency, those rich in melanin have been discriminated against, which is unfortunate, right? We have been discriminated against as a people, but you know what? I think about this, right? Like, if you really think about it, how could a people be so hated, disliked, and disdained in society? Only a people great. You have to think about this in the reverse. Only a people so great that someone would be so jealous of or so envious of their power, or they could see the God within them, that they could treat them a certain way. That they knew the power, they knew their intelligence, they knew the creativity that existed within our people. So of course they had to put us down. But that's another thing. I try not to get off on a tangent. Okay. So unfortunately, our people have been treated very, very poorly. Very, very poorly, unfortunately, right? Let's see. Let me keep going. I want to skip some of this stuff. Okay. So Do I want to go? No, I don't want to go over that right now. Like I said, some of the stuff I really want to leave for some of the other episodes, and I didn't put this in order for this episode. So let's see here. So when we think about melanin and race, when people think about the first people, especially those in the Bible, they think about Adam and Eve, right? Though the first people on the planet Earth were people who were highly melanated. If you think about all the indigenous people that ever existed, right? And you see those pictures of them, what do those people look like? No matter where they are on the planet Earth, they're dark-skinned people, dark-complected people, because they were the first people, right? I got a little hair in my mouth, excuse me. You cannot have light without darkness, and darkness unfortunately has been demonized. Darkness has been said to be this thing that just is evil, but to be honest, it's not. And when I say embrace your darkness, it doesn't mean just your shadow. It means embrace your melanin, embrace who you are, embrace your God within you. That's what that means. Embracing your darkness. Sounds like a book title. You know what I'm saying? So it's unfortunate that the African people, not just the African people, because before we became the African people, we didn't call ourselves that. Before we were indigenous. It's unfortunate that the indigenous aboriginal peoples of this planet Earth, these are melanated people, us, right? Our God people, our chosen people, we unfortunately have been put in a place where we have been put on the bottom of the totem pole. But let me tell you one thing. You are an amazing being with so much hidden potential within you, but it's time for that to really come out. Okay. I'm gonna briefly touch on hair, but I want to do a whole episode on hair. So hair is so important to us, and unfortunately too, our hair has also been very unfortunately put with derogatory terms and also demonized. Just like for the longest, for example, right? In the military, you couldn't have what you call locks, right? Some people refer to them as dreadlocks. I don't like that, but so we have to be careful with our words, but some people refer to them as dreadlocks. But when we talk about our ancestors knew the power of their hair. They knew that growing out their hair gave them more spiritual abilities. So in your hair, like I said, melanin exists within your hair. So if you're allowing your hair to grow, you're receiving more downloads. You're more spiritual. You're more awakened. That's why I'm loving to see, especially with my other fellow black men, so many people with locks, so many people growing out their hair, because your hair is an antenna. Your hair grows in spirals upwards towards the sun. No one else's hair grows in a spiral upwards towards the sun to receive. Your hair's like, hey, come on, divine, give me all the messages. Give me all the like every message that you have, every enlightened message, and receive the thing I can receive. Just give it to me. That's what your hair says. And when we cut our hair off, that cuts our connection with the divine. It cuts part of it. But sometimes we do need a little bit of a rebirth to restart, right? So I want to really get into that on another episode, because I really want to dedicate just about hair on another one. So that was really just the introduction to this melanin, right? And if you stayed this long and you're inquisitive and stay curious, okay? These are melanated messages. And we deserve our place here on the planet Earth in the entire universe, because guess what? This is our age of resurrection. This is the age where this is the age where every single melanated being, highly melanated being on this planet Earth comes to realize their power, our power. Because it's no longer time for sleeping. It's time to wake up and see the God within you, and understand that all this other stuff has been a smoke screen to hide you from who you truly are, and for us to be more consciously aware of who we are, because we have to be conscious people. We have to be conscious gods, because that is the only way we'll be truly enlightened. So I hope to see you next time on the next episode. Ashe and amen.